Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm Tom Shellcross. With me, as always, is Mark Ainley. Mark, you were in my head there. Whew, you got me that time.
It took us three cuts to get off the ground there, but that means we got two bloopers, so I love it.
Yeah, we're here though. Hey, you know what? I got to see you. I get to see you today via Zoom. I got to see you last Thursday. You had your nice little real estate meetup. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no. So Tom, I should be thanking you. You're so nice to come out and moderate. You know, we kind of revamped the Chicago Property Managers Best Practices group that last week through some sponsors. Second Nature was one of the bigger sponsors there, but they got about 40, 50 Chicago property managers in a room over at the Country Club and in Wrigleyville. And then we end up going to a Cubs game. But great event. Tom, you moderated a great panel, and I think we were able to share a lot of information. So any of the property managers out there, check out we put a page under resources on straightupchicagoinvestor.com if you want to be if you're a third party property manager, you want to be part of that group.
Awesome. No, great event. Looking forward to more of them. And you're usually in Park Ridge, kind of out by my neck of the woods. It's easy.
Yeah, I know. So we went, so we kind of skip around, that was obviously about, we're meeting 11 times a year and we're going to have 3 like fun events like that a year, but the rest of it will be more office space and best practice space. Awesome.
Well, make sure to check that out. What else you have? What did you do over the weekend?
Man, so you ever have those things where you keep hearing it and you should do something, you should do it. It's in the back of your head. And then finally you do it like, damn, why didn't I do that so long ago? I had one of those moments this weekend with Masterclass. So Masterclass is an app that has basically a bunch of, professionals in whatever field they're in, but teaching, it's like 10, 11 different videos that might be anywhere from 8 to 25 minutes, but they're all great stuff. So this weekend I listened to Chris Voss and Coach K from Duke. And like Coach K was all about, even though he's a basketball coach, but I mean, he's got like some of the best leadership out there. So anybody, I think it's for a year, it's like $128 to download this app on your phone and you watch these. I mean, you do watch it on TV as well too, but just a tremendous amount of value you get for such a small price.
Well, that's awesome. Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. It's a great one. Coach K, Chicago native, went to Weber High School.
I had to look at it. He grew up in Ukrainian Village.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome.
So, all right. Now I'm going to keep you rolling here. What's our housing priority tip of the week?
Yeah. So housing priority tip of the week, we haven't had much rain this year, but that also means that the paths to these drains that we might have in the corridors in your yards, at the bottom of your stairs that go down to your garden unit, they might not have been cleaned out either. Usually sometimes when you have rain coming through on an average basis, at least it's getting washed through. Maybe the smaller stuff's getting pushed through. So make sure that, we're going to eventually get rain here and we might get heavy rain. So make sure that all of your sewer, your caps aren't covered, they're not filthy caked with mud, and make sure that there's a clear way for your water to get down any drains that it's supposed to, because otherwise they'll find other ways. And that's usually into your ground floor or your basement, or backs up into your yard and floods something out.
Yeah, it's always going to happen at the least appropriate time. So try to be proactive as much as possible.
Yeah. So especially this year, because we haven't had any rain. A lot of times, it sounds silly, but when you just get some rain or you get consistent rain, like you in a normal spring, summer, it's cleaning itself out as you go.
Yeah. All right. Today's guest, Mark, lead us in here.
Yeah, no. So today's guest, I've been talking to one of them for a while. He doesn't remember it, but I've tried to get him as a vendor for a couple of years now. Probably about 3-4 years ago, I looked back at my notes, and we never really connected on the vendor side for the property management. But introduced to them again at the 200th episode party. It's, both Southwest Side natives, and they have such a go-giver attitude. They want to give back. They're doing things that don't necessarily make them money. They're investors. They have a successful roofing business, but we want to bring them on here today and just kind of get their mindset, get their experience, and be able to share it with everyone out there, because there's a lot that we can all learn from today's guest. So without further ado, I want to introduce Ivan and Jackie. So Ivan, Jackie, man, talk to us first and foremost. The mindset you guys were describing to us before the show started, like I said, that go-giver mentality, like, you guys are so young and you guys are right there. How'd you guys arrive at this kind of mindset?
I think it's just all of the experiences that we've gone through, not having a network of people to, look up to or talk to. So I think it's just having that positivity just kept us going. I don't know if you want to add much more to that, Ivan.
On the southwest side, where we invest and where we're at, there's not a lot of meetups. Well, actually, I don't think there's any meetups that take place. And it's kind of like there's not a lot of investors that we knew.
Yeah, and as well, they didn't really have anybody that we talked to didn't really always have that positivity attitude. So I think, we want to be that person. We want to be that fit. We want to fit that mold, kind of start our own thing of just trying to give back to people, having that positive outlook on everything, because everything is figure it outable. You can always overcome any challenge.
Figure it outable. I like that one.
Yeah.
All right. So are you guys both from the southwest side?
Yes.
Where are you guys from? Let's start there.
Grew up in Pilsen, and then moved over by the West Lawn kind of area over there. Both of us actually unknowingly both were in Pilsen, and then we were always, I guess our timelines is we always grew up in the same neighborhoods and moved around in the same area as well. So I think it was just we're destined to kind of run into each other.
That's awesome. All right. So, and then why invest in these neighborhoods that you invest in, right? There's so many options in Chicago. Why did you anchor down where you were living?
Ivan?
And so originally we started in Englewood. A lot of people talk about Englewood being such a bad area, or it's, with a negative, they have a negative mindset when it comes to Englewood of what they think about it. So we actually started off in Englewood, and then from there we slowly broke off and started going a little bit further west, where I told Jackie, I think we need to diversify, not just be in Englewood. We need to be in the back of the yards, Brighton Park, and Marquette Park. So those are there's 4 zip codes that we invest in.
Growing up though in those areas, you guys just didn't jump into real estate. You guys maybe your guys' family was in. Kind of bring us to speed how you guys actually, why real estate, or how you got into real estate. I'd love to kind of hear that part.
So originally, about 13 years ago in 2013, after watching HGTV, Flip This House, all the shows that were on A&E, we just, it just hit me. I was like, we're in the construction, we're in the roofing business. I told her, why don't we turn around and buy a house and flip it and see if we can make some money out of it. So while we bought a house to flip, we finished it within 30 days. And then we have drywallers, electricians, we have these service providers. I'm like, we need to keep them busy, because if we lose them, then, it's going to be hard for us to get them back. So then we started buying 2 flats in Englewood.
Why, so you're doing the roofing and you're seeing what made you really jump in? Is it just seeing other people the opportunity, or would you run some numbers? What made you guys have that aha moment of, we got to buy something?
It was just for fun, to be honest with you. At the beginning, I was like, let's get into it. As far as flipping, we'll check both sides of the business. We'll look at it as far as flipping houses and then buying multifamily, and then we'll see which one we like the most and which one's more profitable. Flipping was the most profitable one at the beginning, but over time, holding on to rentals is actually the long term. That's where you have stability, and you have more of a peace of mind, knowing that you have some type of income coming in on a monthly basis. Even if it's small, it's still, while we're sleeping, there's still income coming in.
I love the call of the power team. We didn't disclose this, I don't think. Yeah, you guys are married, right?
Correct, we are.
All right. I was about to say it out loud. And I'm like, wait, have I always assumed that? So you guys are married, but you guys are kind of a power couple. And when it comes to real estate, you started with the roofing, now you got the investment side, now you got the networking side. That's awesome. The amount of speed and there's just huge opportunity when you have 2 people there on the same page. Roofing started first. How'd you get into roofing? Was that a family inherited thing? Was that something you just went up on a roof and fixed a couple of times? You started charging people? How'd you get into that? And what aspects out of that make you more successful as a real estate investor, I guess?
So when I got into roofing, it was actually by accident. I was with a friend of mine, and he had given out my phone number for whatever reason. He did a little bit of roofing with his dad, and most of my family is in roofing. They're union roofers. When he had given my card out to someone, and he had given him a prize, he couldn't do the job, so he gave it to me. And I think at the time it was for $5,500 for a small roof to go on top. And I went ahead and did it, purchased the material, paid the guys. I made about $3,500 off of that. And I was just like, wait, that was that aha moment. I was like, you know what? I think I'm in the wrong business. We need to start roofing. Because prior to that, we were selling at Maxwell Street. Some people know it as Maxwell Street or Jewtown. we were selling, we had a food truck, we had music. We were always kind of like in the hustling, trying to figure out, and we were always in the entrepreneur spirit, trying to figure out like a niche. Where should we do, or what can we do next? So that's kind of like how we got into the roofing aspect. It was off of one job. Over time, we started passing out cards and started looking at more as let's look at it as a business. But it all started off as well for fun. I was like, let's just try it for fun, see if we can make it grow. And we have made it grow in the last 14 years.
You said that twice. You just started a roofing company. You just started real estate. You always just did it just for fun. Like, I mean, is that how your kids came about too? Like, yeah, let's just see what happens.
Everything has been like a challenge, and just seeing if it could be something that fits us. And if we like it, like everything from the flea market to selling toys, CDs, we had eBay account, hot dog truck. Let's just be a risk taker. Let's just go try it. Let's just, see if we like it. And if we do, and we want to stick with it, we do. And if we don't, then we move on with it. But yeah, literally like nothing has been like, okay, let's do a 5-year plan. And, everything that we started off with was just literally, let's go try it out. Let's see if we like it. Let's see if we can, make good money. And we had fun doing it. I mean, obviously there's always challenges, but I mean, that's always just me and Ivan. Like, we want to enjoy what we do. And if we don't enjoy it, we move away from it.
I'm going to dive in a little deeper here because I get questions all the time, boyfriend, girlfriend, I wish my wife did this. I can't do this because of this. Like, what advice would you have out there for younger couples that, is this something you guys saw each other like early on, or is this something that you guys just kind of got lucky and fell into with each other? I'm being personal now. I'm going deep.
Ivan did the flea market prior to me meeting him. And it was probably like month 2. It was like, oh, we're going to go to the flea market. And I just liked it because I was able to put my own, uniqueness to it. And he was like, go ahead, and he kind of let me be the person that is more the internal, like, money. I would always be doing the money, the bookkeeping, the purchasing and stuff like that. And he was more of the, okay, we're going to go here and I'm going to venture out, look at this, whether it was the flea markets, whether it was roofing, whether it was buying a property. We both kind of figured out little by little, like what each person's niche was, and then kind of let each other flourish in what we were the best at.
Yeah. Meanwhile, someone right now is not doing something because they need to read the 12th book on the subject, right? Just go in there, and then you'll figure it out. What's the worst thing that can happen to you?
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's how we just kind of approached everything, is that like anything that you want to learn, you got to just put your mind to it and really like dive deep into it. And like with roofing, with the, investing, with flipping, I mean, we watched tons of shows, read books, and then just by experience alone, we've learned so much. But I think we're just both very like risk takers. And if like one of us is kind of failing and like feeling a little bad about something or doubtful, the other person kind of comes in to like lift each other up. And that's just like who we are. We'd have our bad moments too. We're human, but we kind of know each other's niches and like what each person can be successful at. And we allow that to shine.
You make it sound pretty easy. Yeah, let's go start a business, which has became a pretty successful, right? Let's just go buy real estate, which portfolios came pretty big. Like, talk about some of those, to jump in, you guys do make it sound easy, and it can be that easy, right? Like, hey, listen, as long as I know I can work my way out of it, I can jump into it. What were some, for both like starting a business and for, starting a roofing company specifically, I guess call it a vendor to a real estate model. And then, maybe your first flip, maybe 2 different separate questions here. Like, what were some of kind of those early struggles that you just kind of messed up on?
On the roofing business, I didn't understand as far as websites. When we first opened it up, I was like, we don't need a website. And I was like, what do we need a website to spend money? I didn't understand about SEO. I didn't understand about, reaching out and following up with customers. So over the years, when we got started with the roofing company, within 3-4 years, we kind of like sat down and talked about it. What can we do to be better? We don't want to be like the rest of the roofing companies. We need to stand out. We need to bring something a lot more value and be different. So we want to set the standard. So from that point, after the third year of being in business, we had read about, companies, especially roofing companies, like 95% of them go out of business within the first 3 years. So we didn't want to fall into those statistics. So I told Jackie, at the end, we need to set the standard. And from that point forward until today, that's what we are. We're about setting the standard, following up, appreciating customers, reaching out to clients, understanding, customers, are paying us for a service, they're asking us for help, and we need to stand behind them. As you might know, Mark, is when you deal with service providers, one of the biggest challenges is if they give you a warranty, that they honor it. A lot of vendors will not honor it. They'll go around. They don't want to lose money because they have to go out there. We, on the other hand, is where there's an issue, even if it's not under our warranty, we still send our crews out there. Go ahead and take care of them because we want to make sure that customer is satisfied, even if the problem had nothing to do with where we had performed a repair or if it had anything to do with us replacing a roof.
And then in regards to challenges, I mean, like Ivan said, is one of the challenges was website, reaching out to customers, doing follow-ups. I think in the beginning we were very young. So one of our challenges was not having a good network of people to rely on to. So a lot of it was just us two kind of trying to figure out, the do's and the don'ts. Owning a roofing company, doing flips, having rentals, having 2 kids. There was a lot of sweat put into these properties. And I think for us too, is that we didn't know how to have a voice in the beginning, kind of being strict with our timelines or with our vendors because we didn't want to ruin those relationships. So we kind of overspent time in the beginning with some of our earlier projects. Just because we weren't as confident, we were struggling in that factor. So a lot of times we would just kind of be like, okay, let them do it. They said they were finished. And then me and Ivan would go back in there and do like all those little touch-ups or, and we would think it would be a day or two and it would turn out to be a week or two. So that was one of our struggles in the beginning. Now we do have much more of a voice. We're more confident. That has completely changed through experience and time. But yeah, I think in the beginning it was time management and that confidence to speak with vendors and not having a network of people to rely on so that if something didn't work out with one person, we had somebody else that we can outreach. Back then there was no internet, podcasts, networking groups, none of this stuff really existed. So we were just kind of figuring everything out as we went along.
Early on in the 2-flat for Englewood, some of your first stuff. So your first deal you did, you end up flipping it, right? That was the first one.
Yeah, that one was a little bit tough. So it was a single family home, and give me a second. Something that I learned from it. One of the challenges that I learned from it was that I over improved it, and I bought a 2-bedroom, and I figured, okay, I'm gonna add a 3rd bedroom to the basement because I realized that 3 bedrooms, we're going for a lot more and I can get a lot more from it. But at the end of the day, I realized that a 3-bed, if you put a bedroom in the basement, it doesn't count as a 3-bedroom and they can't appraise it. So it stood on the market for like a year and a half, but I eventually did sell it. And then after that, I kind of didn't put too much work as far as demoing walls, redoing all the electrical, redoing all the plumbing. It was more of just make it habitable, make it clean and make it modern and sell it.
A year and a half's a long time, right? Yeah. Like talk to us about some of those tough conversations, sleepless nights. I'd be freaking out.
Well, the thing is we bought it for cheap. We actually picked it up for $25,000. So I had bought it cash and we put about 25, 30 grand into it. That's with the appliance. But it still stood on the market for a long time. I mean, me and Jackie, we went through 2 or 3 brokers, and we would do like these 6-month contracts. And I'm like, why is it not selling? It's something with these brokers that are not, they're not advertising it, they're not marketing. But later on, after a year, I figured it out. I was like, you know what? It's a 2-bedroom with a bedroom on the basement. That doesn't count. Next time, we got to buy 3 bedrooms. It's got to have 3 bedrooms above ground.
Now, were your brokers telling you some of those things along the way and it's just hard to hear, or?
No, they didn't. They never sat there and told us, they're like, you know what, we're going to find the buyer. We're going to find the buyer. You just got to give us some time. And I was like, we're giving it time. And, they had open houses, I think they had about 10 open houses over the year and a half that we had it. And then they had a lot of appointments, viewings. And still, we weren't getting even an offer. If I would have at least gotten an offer, something to entertain, it's somewhere to start, but I never got one till about a year and a half later.
What year would that have been?
That was in 2013.
Okay.
And you kept coming back for more after that.
Well,
I appreciate that grind. Let's run this back.
Well, during that time, we were buying 2 flats in Englewood. But when I sold it, here, I'll give you a story. When I sold that house, that $25,000 house that I had purchased, the first split, when I sold it, I ended up selling it for, I think it was like 119. I walked away with 103,000, give or take, after closing costs and credit. The second property that I ended up buying was in the same location, which is in the Chatham neighborhood, in the 606, I think 60619 zip code. That was a ranch style home, actually 2 bedrooms. It had the kitchen had just been remodeled probably 5 years ago. It was in really good condition. The only thing that stood out that most investors didn't see at the time was that there was 2 bedrooms on the first level. One of them was like a 15 by 12. The second bedroom was 22 by 12. It had 2 doors. It had 2 closets.
I see 2 11 by 12s coming up here.
So all I had to do, there was a wall missing right in the middle. So I put up a wall. I picked that one up for $75,000. I put up a wall in the middle. I added, there was a half bath in the basement. I added a shower to it because it was just a toilet and a hand sink. We ended up selling that one within 3 months of us finishing it for $159,000.
That's beautiful.
And I only put $15,000 in that one.
Yeah, that's the one that'll get you. All right, I need more of these.
Exactly.
So
let me point out something just on the first deal there. And I've felt victim to this before, is when you have your own cash and maybe you don't have a debt service on it, you tend to be more lax on how aggressive you are. I imagine if you dropped the price or did something, adjusted that, you could have got it sold 6 months and you would have made up some of that money that you would have made more money, or at least not eaten more money. And just think about the cost of distraction too, of like that house just being a pain in the ass that you guys don't want to talk about, but you have to. So I know, usually when there's that payment, you feel it every month when you write that check or you see it come out of your account. And so I just kind of be wary anybody out there that has their own money and they don't have debt, that it's really easy to go long term without feeling like you're inflicting any pain or cost when you really are, though.
That was an advantage for us, is that we were purchasing them, cash, and we were putting cash into them. I mean, not saying that we didn't experience some, issues along the way, but it's a different perspective in regards to somebody getting a loan out and trying to flip it out or trying to do it in a different approach. I think we did have some stresses, with that first property. Definitely, we were like, what did we do wrong? What can we learn from it? I think that's always our perspective in every situation. And we weren't as aggressive in the beginning, which you just stipulated. Now we're a little bit more aggressive. We kind of know, we stick to our guns a little bit better about everything. We're very much more headstrong about things now than we were in the beginning.
Man, Ivan, what you said there about you found the 2, that was really a 3. Like that happens all the time. And we're talking about this inventory wise. It's like, we were talking about this morning, actually, like finding these called misrepresented or just kind of missing details, or people skip through it because it's a 2 at 75 when it was really a 3 and it should have been priced at 110 or something like that. And that's a huge thing that people have to be looking at right now with the tight inventory. It's like, what's everybody else missing? Is it a double lot that I looked at a property over the weekend? It's like, man, it's probably been on the market for a while, but you could slice off half and sell it for $400,000 for the vacant lot next door or whatever. So it's like, so there's usually opportunity, not usually, but there's a lot of times there's opportunity with some of these properties that sit there for a long time.
all right, so talk to us a little about like the journey of just the different neighborhoods. So you're in Englewood, you're in Chatham. At this point in time, call it 2013, 14. Is everything in play on the Southwest side? Did you anchor down in 1 or 2 spots? Like where did you guys hit hard? And in retrospect, would you do that all again or would you change it?
So I would say we hit hard kind of like in the back of the yards and in Englewood at the beginning. Then when we decided we wanted to diversify, that's when we jumped over to the Gage Park, Marquette Park, and Brighton Park area.
Okay.
Different caliber of rentals as well, in different like classes as well. So we just wanted to diversify and kind of look around and not try to stick in one area, just try to see if there was opportunity elsewhere, because we weren't really looking, and you don't know if you don't look. So then when we started looking, we started seeing opportunity, and bigger properties too. So then we just started, that momentum just began at that point in time.
And then talk about velocity. Was this something where you're picking up, one or two properties a year? Is this, hey, we're going guns a-blazing? Like, just how active were you guys with the roofing company and everything else going on?
Do you want me to come in, Chike?
Yeah.
So what we were doing is we're just picking up between 2 to 4 units, picking up at least 3 to 4 every year, trying to pick up. And then, I was struggling with trying to get into the multifamily space because I quite didn't understand how can I buy a 5 or 6 unit building? But, we had the opportunity in 2017 when we picked up our first 5 unit in the back of the yards. And then I realized, I got that aha moment. I thought that it was going to be really, really difficult. Like it was going to be really hard and challenging to buy it, but it actually wasn't. The lender made it really easy for me to get the financing. I didn't understand what a personal financial statement was or how to fill it out. So I sent it over to my CPA. Once my CPA did kind of like a draft draft and he showed it to me. He's like, just fill in the rest of it. It's very simple. After that, it was like, okay, so as long as I have credit, you have the 20% down that some of these lenders are asking for, and the numbers make sense and it appraises, it's relatively easy. It's actually easier to buy a multifamily, a 5 unit plus, than it is for, say, a 2 to 4 unit apartment building.
Man, that is so true. And so many people don't realize it. Like they think, oh, I got to go get financing. That'd be so hard. It's actually so much easier, especially if you're self-employed too, even.
So let's continue down this thread here. What would you have done differently? Right. It sounds like things have gone very well, but with hindsight here, what would you have done differently? Would you have bought more in those areas? Would you have expanded to other areas quicker?
To be honest with you, I think everything played out the way that it played out, and I'm happy for it, because one of the things I told Jackie, we're going to be buying in D and C class neighborhoods. So we're going to be kind of like in the hood, in the barrio, I'm like, but if we're able to manage these properties, we should be able to scale to better neighborhoods. And at the end, what we figured out is, it's not, one thing is to manage people, but real estate is about, relationships, having relationships with your tenants and understanding and respecting your tenants. If you respect tenants, regardless of what neighborhood you're in, what neighborhood you invest, that's all they're looking for. They're going to take care of you. And, and pretty much that's one thing that I've learned, that at the end, I'm happy how we started. And I don't think I would change any of it.
I kind of agree on that notion too. I know we've had a lot of struggles. I mean, I know it doesn't seem like that based off our conversation, but there was some times where it was a little bit difficult to try to fix the properties or get them fully rented. We did have some issues with evictions at certain points in time. We struggled trying to scale and getting a bigger properties and like more of a bigger units. But I think everything does happen for a reason, because once we hit that stagnant point at one point in our, real estate journey. But then once we did pivot, we learned really quickly, and then we just scaled really quickly as well. And that's what we want to continue to do. And when you say relationships, I do think it's very important, the relationships you have, and that's where networking comes into place. We didn't have those relationships back then. So there was a lot of things that we didn't understand and nobody explained to us. But until we hit that moment, then we learned, and that's where now we want to teach other people how to grow, just because we didn't have that accessible to us.
Relationships with tenants, I think, are even more crucial in C and D class areas. Talk to us about any scenarios where in C and D class you maybe learned something the hard way when it came to breaking into these neighborhoods.
So that's more my thing. I do more the internal operations for both companies. I'm more the relationship communicator type of person. I know in the beginning, when we first started acquiring tenants, I was very thorough. I've always been that way. Sitting down with my tenants, making sure they had a folder, making sure I went over all the laws, giving them, making sure we were reading the lease. On a one-on-one basis. Even if it was going to take an hour to 2 hours, if I'm acquiring this person for a full year, I want to be able to give them that, hey, I understand you, let's talk. Do you have any questions, concerns? Make sure they have like every single document that they needed. With that being situation is like it opened up that relationship with my tenants where for me immediately, it started to see a difference. In the beginning, I wasn't so much like that, maybe the first couple properties, but within time, yes, I did. And then it just became my normal. Now it's just giving that very thorough relationship explanation with each and every one of them. And I mean, it's completely changed the game for us. And I think that it can for a lot of different people if they just had that one-on-one with their tenants, because there's that unfamiliarity of just thinking, oh, well, you just want my money and go, versus like, yes, I want you to take care of it, because this is they are acquiring your property, your apartment, but it is their home. So if you don't give them that quality and that care, and you don't talk to them and go over everything, you're just going to send that DocuSign. They're going to say, yes, I read it. And then later on, you're going to have issues, and you're going to go, did you see Section 5 and Section B and, Section 7? And they're not going to know what you're talking about. So when you spend that time with them, it's super important, I think, to build that relationship and that knowledge factor, because it's not just protecting us. You want them to feel like you're understanding them and you care about them as well.
A lot of house providers listening right now would say there's a point of diminishing returns when it comes to how much time you're going to put in upfront. Would you be able to speak to these when you have an issue with a tenant down the road? Do you think you're preventing issues from actually happening, or do you think the resolution of them are easier? Or is there a combination of both when it comes to the time you spend upfront with them?
I've seen for me that resolution time is so much more easier. They're much more understanding. I'm also creating kind of an expectation guideline of what's to come in the future, of just if there's a problem, how do we going to handle it? Just after hour situations, what is an emergency versus a non-emergency? I think I've solved a lot of problems and a lot of time management where in the past, I think it was something huge. Everything seemed kind of huge. Everything seemed really big, not only to me, but to Ivan, also to the tenant. Where now I've kind of, with experience, kind of gone through what's an emergency, what's a non-emergency, and I give them like FAQs, an intro letter, a how-to guide. So they kind of know exactly, like, if your sink's clogged, this is what you should be doing. Your toilet's clogged, this is what you should be doing. They kind of know like exactly like how to handle things. So there's a less of a freak out moment too.
As you're scaling, you're obviously going to be adding more and more doors, or maybe someone listening is thinking, I got 400 doors. Like, I'd literally have to hire somebody to go over the 50 move-ins I have next month. Is there any way you could automate it that you've ever thought about? Like, how do you replace yourself with that, making it easier without going back to their lease, they should read it type mentality?
I am going to do that. That's something that I'm actually going to work on. I'm going to do a video where it's like the intro video, the how-to, the FAQs, kind of going over the lease. I'm going to do a filming of myself kind of explaining everything and sending it out to every single person, even with the process of just acquiring a tenant, in regards to like, what is our process? What is it that needs that you need to qualify for a unit, so that I can reduce my time, because that's something that for me, time management is so much more important now, especially having all these different avenues of things that we're doing. I want to stop being overly repetitive. So yeah, I agree with potentially, yes, if you had more properties, it gets time, and that's something that I'm experiencing now, is where's my time being spent. But the videos, I think, would be just a really quick and simple thing, whether you have it on YouTube, a link on your website, something that you can just, it's sendable.
Yeah, man, that's all really good stuff. And anyone looking to get started, if you're looking to be proactive versus reactive, like, go listen to the last 3-4 minutes there. There's a lot in there. Let's move that over to screening now, right? I think it's one of the biggest issues in, call it a C to D class, is, weeding it out and getting good tenants, because there are good tenants in these classes. Talk to us a little bit about screening. What do you do differently? How have you guys found success? Any little nuggets you can drop for our listeners?
Yeah, so for me, it's a pre-screening conversation. I do have a very thorough conversation with them. I ask them why they're moving. I look over their ID. Does it match all their documentation? That's like a red flag for me. If somebody has something where their paycheck stubs, their ID, their application, everything seems different, that means that they're constantly moving around. Having that conversation where it's friendly and approachable, they usually start telling me a lot about their previous landlord, which I'm able to kind of identify, like, if it's a situation with the landlord or if it's actually like a them problem. Making sure that they qualify with the income, reviewing how long they've been at their job, making sure that that's something that is standoff. And then also there's a lot of just like street smart of just when you meet people, there's that intuition of how they approach and how they walk into a unit versus like just acquiring them just on paper. You do have to kind of see their mannerisms, not only on their voice, but also in person. I've seen a lot of times where, you have somebody come in and their whole family's with them. That's kind of like a red flag, like who's moving in here? Or you have like a cousin that's speaking up for them, or a mom. The mom and the dad thing is like always drives me crazy, because I never speak to the actual person that's wanting to acquire it. I wind up speaking with the parent, and I don't want to deal with those issues either. So there's a lot of on paper, but then like, what's your intuition? And I think that like a lot of people don't follow their intuition with somebody. They look great on paper, but there's these mannerisms, the way that they talk to you, or just who's interjecting in the conversation, that people don't follow their gut instinct.
Yeah, Mark, anything to add to that? I know, because you play in this area as well.
Yeah, no, I think the screening, much like what we were just talking about, it ends up being, it's like, how do you make it scalable, or how can you do it effectively or each time, again, at the same time, while having a system to make sure you never get busted or called out for anything fair housing wise, or you're considering differently. So everything she's saying is spot on of things that you have to account for in the process. And I think the ability to prove documentation these days is more important than anything. Just last week we had like 5 or 6 like fake documents that came through, and maybe 4 of them would have gotten through 2 years ago or something like that. But I think it's become more of a larger problem here across everywhere, not just Chicago.
Yeah, I'm the person in the office that everything has to go through me. So even like my ladies in the office, they're pre-screening. So I'm a very I've been doing this for 13 years now, so I'm able to catch all those little red flags of just like the different addresses or different stages of the income, the credit check. I'm able to review it quicker. I think it's something within time. And to scale it, I haven't been able to figure that out 100% where I can give it off to the next person. I think it's just with experience that I have to teach that situation going to the next person. It's not something where it's a per se different. There's so many different scenarios that can occur. So it's just being more familiarized with those scenarios so that you don't deal with them going forward.
Yeah, and just public service announcement while we're on this subject. If you're maybe on someone, but it's like, oh, it's coming to the first of the month, I can get them in there and not have that month of vacancy. Like, don't do it. Right? Like
yeah.
The back. I know we all been there. We all want, we all want to hit the number, but like, man, the back end trouble, if that tenant does not work out, is, it's a 5-digit number, right? So just don't remember that, like when you're trying to make that split second decision of like, I think this will work. Like that's the worst thing you can say to yourself.
It's 100 times a pain point you have to end up solving versus why you made that decision that day to solve that pain point that like might be like, get someone to move in, or I don't have to deal with this vacancy, or I'm going to show it Saturday. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like, please just take your time, and the long-term ramifications they're high.
Yeah. Can I say something, Mark? I would literally say I would rather have a vacant unit for 6 months than to have a tenant not paying, using water, possibly destroying the unit than having it vacant. I prefer to have it vacant.
Yeah, no, 100%. So
well, this is all great stuff here, but you guys went out and did something else now on top of this very busy lifestyle that you guys created for yourselves and your family. You guys went outside of the Southwest Housing Providers Group. You're now part of MBOA, and tell us a little bit how that came about, or how you took on that journey.
Go ahead, Jackie.
So with the Southwest Housing Providers Group, I even had a lot of conversations of when we went to different meetups. How was it introduced to us? So a lot of times we'd walk into these meetups when we first started going to a lot of these networking groups, and first conversation, not even hi, how are you, or what's your name? It was, how many units do you have? It was a very judgmental type of kind of offsetting kind of situation. And we were going to a lot of these meetups, and they weren't very educational either. They weren't very transparent. It was like, I got A and then went to B, and then I got C, and then I got D, and then yay, I got A, B, C, D, M, N, O, P. right? And then there was no like transition of how you got to this or what happened. So I say if you don't fit into a group, I kind of created my own group so that I can kind of create my own vision of what we wanted, something me and Ivan wanted to do. And meeting Mike Glasser kind of just put everything into perspective. We really want to be very educational. We want to give a lot of our experiences. We want to be very in depth, but we also want to give the positive aspect of it as well. Just, you know, these are temporary moments. How can we help you get out of them? How can we motivate you? Because a lot of times when we've met people, we hear their struggles and nobody, it's kind of like, oh, okay, I hear you. Okay, I got to go. Let me go network with somebody else. So I want to be able to be like, okay, let me hear you and let me pivot you to this right lender. Let me pivot you to this electrician. Let me help you overcome these challenges because nobody helped us. And I know this is just something that we're doing out of our own free will, but we're learning too, and we're growing and we're expanding our network as well. So for me, it was just, you know, really, really being able to educate, help out, and, you know, change the way that the South Side is giving that perspective. I think a lot of people think the South Side is totally like, oh no, it's very difficult. There's a lot of challenges. There is, but anywhere you are a housing provider, there's always going to be challenges. It's just a different set of challenges.
Ah, man, I love that story. How'd you meet Glasser? Was that just at an event, or how'd you guys connect?
I actually ended up meeting him at a meetup where it was, I guess, like a breakfast, but it was part of the LARIC, the Latino Real Estate Investors. I don't know exactly what the whole acronym is, but that's where I actually met him. And, you know, I approached him, he actually approached me because, you know, he wanted to, you know, kind of like introduce himself to me. And I told him that I'm a roofing provider and also a housing provider. And he went ahead and, you know, actually hired us. We did some work for him. And then over time, we started talking, and I had told him, he's like, hey, you know, you invest in the Southwest side. You know, how would you like to create a group over there? We don't have anybody. I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm the perfect fit. I think Jackie would be more the person you want to talk to. And then that's when I told Jackie, I think this is where, you know, your time to shine, per se, is like, this is what, you know, you're better off at this, at starting the group off than I am.
Sonia Elric, episode 171. Thanks, Tom. I knew right away. Whenever someone mentions that, we always kind of make eye contact or see where the other person's eyes go on the Zoom here. But let's see who's going to look it up. But yeah, that was a great episode. Or Sonia talked about the Latino network there that they have. But your guys' story is awesome, and I want to bring something out here. You kind of said it, Jackie, but you know, they always say that you learn more when you're teaching somebody to do something versus when you're the student, or you learn to you become the expert then. And what you guys want to do is something that's always been kind of my style. And maybe part of the reason why we have this podcast, even it's like, if you're helping somebody, you're usually connecting with somebody, and you're connecting with somebody, then you're helping that person. And that person is then turning around and referring you roofing business. And then because now you have roofing business, now you have your name on another building. Because you have a name on another building, someone calls you up and talks to you about the building they want to sell. And that person, then you connect them to the group, and they go back to the group and they find a way to get out over their BK they just filed because they got divorced. And it's such a big circle. Now you do that 10, 15 times a day, and the exponential like effect you have on your network and on your community is just humongous. And it's so awesome you guys recognize, and you guys are doing that with this group here.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I mean, it's just something that for me, I want to be something that I would like to look up to. Growing up, I didn't have a lot of people that I can look up to in my, you know, surroundings. So I kind of want to be like that for my children, but also for other like-minded adults, and kind of just share that energy. I know it's really hard to sometimes be positive, but I mean, as you see in my background right here, it says good vibes. For me, it's like there's always positive moments. A lot of times people are very negative minded. You know, I had a bad day, and it's like, did you really have a bad day, or was that a bad 5 minutes, and did you figure it out? What did you learn from the situation? How can we move on from it? And what can we share to others about that perspective mindset so we can all grow? And for me, it's about us all growing together and sharing that, you know, that knowledge without it being, oh, well, you know, if I did share that person's going to scale. I'm not in a competition with anybody else besides myself. And that's just how my perspective is in my mindset.
No, it's so good, right? Like that's you know, what do people say about you when you're not in the room, right? No, on your deathbed, no one's gonna ask how many doors you had. right?
No.
That's not the thing that we're chasing here. So that is so awesome. I love that answer.
Well, before
Mark,
we move to wrap up, why don't you
yeah.
give us some information on the South and your group, Southwest Housing Providers group, where you guys are meeting, how often? Obviously, we have it on @ChicagoInvestor.com under Chicago meetups, but give us kind of some information on the group as a whole right now for everybody.
Yeah, so our group is very new. So we're in the process of doing a website. You can find us on Facebook at Southwest Housing Providers, group on Facebook, on Meetup as well. We're doing a free meetup every second Wednesday of the month at 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗃 Sports Bar. That's on Archer Avenue. I apologize, I don't know the address by heart.
5544 South Archer Avenue.
Thank you so much. So it starts every second Wednesday of the month from 6 to 9 p.m. We're having different topics, different speakers. They're going to go into depth. If you want to become a member, more than likely, reach out to me at southwesthhousingproviders@gmail.com. We're having exclusive roundtable discussions, private breakfasts, where we're going more into depth on a subject, having insurance agents, eviction attorneys, accountants, all different types of different forums to kind of go into depth with certain subjects. Those are more, member exclusives. But again, if you're on Meetup or Facebook, you can become part of our constant contact so that we can send out all the flyers. And the process of us, like I said, it's the new baby that I have. We're only about 4 months old, and we're getting our website down in order. So yes, appreciate you publicizing the group, and we look forward to having as many people that come on by.
We'll link to all that in the show notes, but it's also at straight up ChicagoInvestor.com under Chicago meetup groups. So.
Can I say something, Mark?
You bet.
The other thing is, what we wanted to do, and one thing that I want to do is kind of explain to people about creative financing, where they're able to use, some of be creative with their financing. Like, for example, right now, there's a lot of investors out there that have a BRRRR or house hack where they want to refinance, but they're scared because the interest rate is, say, at 3% or 4%. They don't want to, they don't want to refinance and then have to pay the 7%. So I want to show people how I've done some deals with cross collateration where we basically buy a property using it as collateral without refinancing a property that we currently have. If you want, I can go into that on one that we recently did last year on a 6-unit building.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wrote it down a little bit. So in 2017, I picked up a 2-flat in Englewood for $125,000. I put 25% down on that property, which was $25,000. At that time, the interest rate was about 7%. So my mortgage just alone was $700. What I ended up doing in 2020, August 2020, I ended up refinancing with a local lender. And this is where the relationships with local lenders are very important. I ended up refinancing, but I only refinanced the interest rate. So from a 7, I brought it down to a 3%. I had paid down between 2017 and 2020. I had paid down the mortgage. I'll pay like $300, $400. We were getting about $2,200 in rent. So I was like, put some money to savings, go ahead and pay it down. So in August 2020, my balance on that loan was about $80,000, and it was appraised for $180,000. Like I said, I didn't take any money out. I just left it alone. I said, you know what? I have about $100,000 in equity, but I don't want to touch it. Just, 2020 was, we weren't sure where the market was going to go. So I was like, I'm just going to leave it alone. Come 2022, I ran into a 6-unit in the neighborhood in the Gage Park area, where I ended up, it was for sale for $399,000. I was able to negotiate it to $235,000. And what I ended up doing is I went to my lender, which was a local lender. I went to him and I asked him, I kind of put myself in a position. I said, hey, listen, I want to do this cross collateration. Instead of refinancing this 2-flat that I currently have at 3% interest rate, what I wanted to do is use the equity that I have in it as collateral, have a second. You already have first position. You're just going to have a second position for the $70,000, $80,000 that I'm going to need for the 6-unit. So he went ahead and looked over it. I gave him the pro forma and I gave him the actuals. And he said, as long as the property appraises for, I think it was $230,000, as long as it appraises for that, then I'll be able to do it. Sure enough, we got an appraisal. So the appraisal September 2022 came up at, let me double check real quick. It came up at $235,000. So it was right where I needed. And then I was able to purchase basically a 6-unit without any money coming out of my pocket. And I just basically did the collateral. I kept the interest rate at 3%. And they just held it, kind of like put he already had first position, but I was able to use collateral. The equity that I had in the 2-flat, I was able to use it to be able to purchase this property, which
That's
I got
awesome.
at 6% interest.
Yeah. So you basically have, that is the promissory note, and then the actual mortgage is on that original duplex in Englewood, correct?
Correct.
Just so we're following this here. So do you mind sharing that lender? I think our listeners want to hear this.
Well, it was Byline Bank.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a local lender.
And one other thing I would point out there too is, even if that second part of that, even if you got at 8 or 9%, right? Just say, you had to go high. Like if you blend those two, that's still not horrible either, based on the percentages for both.
Correct. But I kept the first one.
No, that's amazing.
Kept it at 3%. Yep. So I'm still paying the same amount in the mortgage. I'm only paying the full total for the purchase of the 6 unit, which is the $332,500 at the 6%.
Man, so we're going to see more of these too, because a lot of us are in those positions. I'm going through this right now. There's a few properties I have equity, but the rates at 3 or 4. Like, I don't want to refi. I don't want to pull stuff out. It's like, what do you do with it, right? And how can you use it to your advantage to continue to grow and continue to scale?
Correct.
All
right, Mark, you ready to wrap this?
I am ready. I am totally ready. So that is, we got a lot of wealth of information here on this show so far. So, all right, you guys both ready?
Yes.
What's been your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do this while others wish they could make it seem as easy as you guys do?
Teamwork.
Positive mindset.
Yeah.
I like it. Just point to the good vibes. We'll call it a day.
Yeah.
What, both of you, give us one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property here in Chicago.
I would say if they're able to buy a 4-unit through FHA in the best neighborhood, they should go for it. This will give them the experience, as far as how to manage properties, and just understand that they'll get a better understanding of, if they're getting into the multifamily, they'll get a better understanding of what goes into investing. It's not just about buying the building and collecting rent. There's a little bit more in depth where you're actually cleaning up, you're doing a few maintenance, or you're hiring somebody, but it kind of gives you boots on the ground to understand that part before you start to scale.
I second that. I mean, I think in general, either doing like a house hacking or buying something, a 3-unit or more, I think it's the best situation to get into real estate. I mean, I don't regret buying the 2 units, but really getting a bigger unit and potentially living in the unit if you can, so that you can kind of have that familiarity with your tenants and how things are operating. So going into the next one, it's a lot much easier for you.
Awesome. All right. When you guys have time, which I'm not sure when, what do you guys do for fun?
Michigan.
Michigan.
Go ahead,
we go to Michigan a lot.
Where do you go? How far north?
We go to 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, Collin, St. Joseph. We like going over there. We like being by the water. If not Michigan, we love going to San Diego. That's our other favorite place to go to. We just love being straight on the water, but being a little, I know San Diego is like a big town, but there's something about being in these different areas where we just love it.
That is a great answer. What is a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you'd recommend to our listeners?
For me, it's that book, It's Figure Outable. I know I mentioned it a little bit earlier on. That's something for me when I read that book. It's really changed. I was already like that, but I think that really changed, where it's not an investment totally perspective. It's just about changing your mindset approach on how anything that you deal with as a challenge, you can overcome it.
For me, the book is going to be Crushing It in Apartments and Commercial Real Estate by Brian B. Murray. That book is awesome.
Nice.
I don't know that one. Is it for beginners, people already in the game, anyone? Like, who's it geared towards?
It's kind of like beginners and people more in the game that are scaling to 5+ units or want to scale to larger apartment buildings.
Cool.
All right. Besides yourself, name one person in your local network you'd highly recommend to other investors. Maybe byline, drop them as well.
I would say it's Joseph Kroc with FNBC Bank over here in the Grange. He's been a great asset to us in both of the roofing, the investment side, as well as the Southwest side as well with our new group. He's an amazing person that I recommend for everybody to network with.
I would say our State Farm insurance provider, which is 𝗥𝗲𝗍𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃
All right.
I've
All
actually
right.
known Augie for 19 years. So I actually used to work for State Farm, and he bought over the agency, and I've had the most amazing relationship with him. He's also one of our founding sponsors. He's super in depth. I mean, any questions you have, he sits down with you, goes over everything, 6 month reviews. I mean, I couldn't even ask for a better agent if I wanted to. He's kind of created that standard of what I want going forward.
Awesome.
Love it. Well, guys, thank you both so much. You've provided a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Yeah, they can find us on Facebook with both Roofing by Hernandez and Southwest Housing Providers Group, as well as Meetup. If they need a roof, we're here for you. If you need help with investing, we're here for you. We appreciate anybody, that wants to be a part of it, anybody that wants to grow or just to network with. I mean, you don't have to be part of the group. We could just chat with each other and grow from each other. I would appreciate anybody who is interested.
One thing that Jackie's forgetting is that we also have kind of like on the side, we have a Facebook group called Chicago Friendly Landlord Group. And it's where we talk about everything and anything that has to do with, housing, providing housing with landlording, just to make it easier for anybody who's struggling, whether if they need a 5-day notice, if they need to know when they need to issue somebody, a non-renewal, what are the days, whether it's 30, 60, 90, or 120 days, depending on how long they've been living there. And then also as far as repairs, like when do you do a complete gut rehab versus just versus just painting and, touching up the cabinets or whatever might be needed in the unit.
That is great information, right? Like that is so overlooked, and everyone can talk about all these different things, but like, man, just having some of that tactical documentation for that guy who's never done it before, like that is life-saving at some point.
Yep.
So, all right, Mark, who are we playing for the Chicago Fact? And we got 3 people to guess here.
Yes. So hopefully if it's multiple choice, you got more than 4. So 𝗿𝗲𝗄𝗃 𝗁𝗍𝗄, we're playing for her today. She bought a Straight Up Chicago Investor t-shirt off the Straight Up Chicago merch store. And if any of us get this question right, 𝗿𝗲𝗄𝗃, you're going to get a $50 gift card brought to you by KSN or appeal.tax from KSN.
All right. So Mark, I mean, you know a lot more about history than I do, but this one we're going baseball. I would definitely have gotten this one, so no pressure.
Okay.
So we mentioned Chapman on the show earlier. This Cubs Hall of Fame shortstop and first baseman was Dallas born, but for many of his years, he resided at 82nd and South Rhodes Avenue. He's a Korean War vet, 500 home run club, multiple-time All-Star Hall of Famer. He was also the Cubs' first black player, and his number 14 is retired by the club. Who is that Cubs player? And would you like multiple choice?
Give me multiple choice.
All right. Is it Ernie Banks, Billy Williams, Fergie Jenkins, or Billy Herman?
It's between Bernie Williams and Jenkins. I'll go with Jenkins.
I was going to go with Jenkins too.
You go with somebody else so we could help 𝗿𝗲𝗄𝗃 make sure we cover
You got to
all
diversify.
I'm sorry, I forgot the names a little bit. Do you mind repeating that?
We got Ernie Banks, Billy Williams, Fergie Jenkins, or Billy Herman?
Billy Herman.
Ivan, last one.
Billy Williams.
Guys, Ernie Banks. That was a poor show.
See, I thought that was too.
Lands on a dud.
Man, I thought he was. Honestly, I thought he played
so much
outfield,
value, so much content, and womp womp.
Oh my
I
gosh.
needed a lifeline. I needed to call my son. We call him the historian. He would have probably known this one.
𝗿𝗲𝗄𝗃. I'm sorry, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually put your name back in the hat. We're gonna put 3 different things in there, so we'll get you chosen again, so we can maybe next time we get hit a home run for you.
Oh, there you go. We just had a Cubs game together too. Nice, well played.
Man, yeah. So, all right. Thank you, KSN, for sponsoring the Chicago Fact. Thank you, Jackie and Ivan, for coming on here. Tom, thank you as always. And what I found out this morning was our new page, Build Your Team. We have more downloads on there than we've had the rest of the website the last couple of weeks. So huge impact to Build Your Teams on there. If you're looking for architect, if you're looking for attorney, if you're looking for somebody to be part of your team, go on there, check it out. It's at straightupchicagoinvestor.com on the homepage to Build Your Team. And Jackie, Ivan, thank you very much. Tom, thank you. And listeners, we will see you next week.
Thanks all.
Yeah, thanks.
Guys, thank you for having us.